from the News Channel 5 network. This is Score Connect.
And welcome to Score Connect. I'm Anna-Vija McClain, your host, and we are excited to be bringing to you Nashville business leaders. Score Nashville volunteers to mentor entrepreneurs and small business owners here in Nashville, and the Score network is around the country. We service our clients by connecting them to business leaders in the community, and today we are excited to have with us Sherry Deutschmann. She is the founder and CEO of Braintrust, a women's entrepreneurial group, which she will tell us all about, as well as the former owner of Letter Logic. She is a community leader, a public speaker, and the best-selling author of Lunch with Lucy, which details her personal journey through entrepreneurship. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Sherry.
Thank you for having me, Anna-Vija. It's great to be with you.
Absolutely. So, Sherry, you've been a personal friend and mentor of mine for a couple of years, and I've been part of the Braintrust program, which is amazing. Can you give us a little synopsis about what Braintrust is?
Yeah, Braintrust is a peer-to-peer membership for women business owners who aren't content with where their companies are now. So our goal is to help women get to $1 million in revenue and beyond so they can experience financial independence, start building wealth, and start having more of a voice in the community through the success of their business.
That's amazing. And I heard you're growing rapidly.
We are. It's kind of crazy right now.
Everything kind of came back this summer and everybody's super busy, but I'm seeing you everywhere, so that's so wonderful. So one of the things that your book, Lunch with Lucy, talks about is sort of, I mean, if we're being honest, it's bringing the wisdom of your journey to the readers, but it's also helping you advocate for the transparency of the entrepreneurial journey.
Yes.
So we hear a lot in this hustle and grind culture about like getting it right and just working harder and pushing through, when in reality, sometimes the best learning lessons come from the failures or the stumbles. Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Absolutely, and I can share, my experience running Letter Logic. I was fully transparent with my employees in that I shared the financials with them every month. So they saw the P&L, and they were able to then understand why I was saying no to some things. So they could see exactly what our expenses were, how much money we were taking to the bottom line, and it made them have just a better understanding for where the company was and why sometimes it had to be no, not right now.
Right.
And I think it built trust. Well, I know that it built trust. It built trust in my leadership. It built trust in the fact that they were included and that they were cared for. With the new company now, Braintrust, I'm doing the same thing, sharing the financials of the company. But I see it in another way, too, where I go to conferences, business conferences often, and you'll see these people on stage that have been absolutely inspirational. They've built multi-hundred million and sometimes billion-dollar companies.
Yeah.
And so
the definition of success, right? The way that we look at it, yeah.
And so often they're up there and it's like, rah, rah, look at me, I did all this. And every time I think about how much more valuable it would be if they stopped and they talked about the early years when they couldn't make payroll.
Yeah.
And how crushing it was to have to go to a relative to say, can you loan me money for payroll? Or if they had shared the truth about having an employee steal from you, embezzle money that really crippled the company for a while. Or if they'd shared how they overpromised and underdelivered and how it cost them significant clients and how it hurt their reputation for a while.
All the stumbles and the challenges and the failures.
Wouldn't that be more valuable?
Yeah.
And I've seen people do it, and when they do, the audience is on the edge of their seats going, wait, what?
Yeah.
That happened to me too. And then the transparency then builds a bridge, and it tears down walls. Just Sunday, I was at the Black Women's Empowerment luncheon, and the woman next to me asked me, so tell me your story. And I was able to tell her that I had been a single mom, moved to town with no money, no education, no skills.
I've heard about the car
Yes.
that you came in, which was just a right on the end of its life, if I recall correctly.
The ugliest car ever. And how, when I first got here, I couldn't afford daycare and electricity. So my daughter and I often didn't have electricity. And I shared that story with her, and she said, looking at you, I would never know. I would never know that I grew up in the projects and that you and I have so much in common. And there was immediately a bond that was built, because she knew that I could understand parts of her life and she could understand mine. And so that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been transparent about my struggle early on.
Well, and it also allows you, once you've created that bridge and that transparency creates the connection, it also allows you to demonstrate how the situation can get better.
Yes.
So rather than just saying, everything is great and I've done so well and look at all the money I've made or look at this company I've built, that doesn't provide the stepping stones or the tactical way that you get through the hardship. It just says, well, it's going to be better later.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So I think it's just critical that in groups like Braintrust and others like the Entrepreneurs Organization, that we just get real. We tell the truth about where we really are and where we really have been, so that, together we can map a way to success from there.
Yeah. So as you're talking about connecting with people, you're telling a story there. So I think what you mentioned about, people being on stage and sharing their experience, what you're connecting with this woman at the table, what you're not doing is saying, let me give you some advice.
Oh, yeah.
If you're in this part of your life, you should do X, Y, and Z to make that work, right? Like that doesn't work as well, right? What's the difference between experience sharing versus giving direct advice? Because I know that's a core tenet at Braintrust.
It is. So if you can, now and even through the rest of the day, reflect on the times you've given advice. And think about a time when you gave advice and the person didn't listen. And then
there's a few popping into my head, yes.
And they failed. They weren't listening to you. And how your relationship changed after that. So in my experience, I've seen them start withdrawal from me.
Oh, interesting.
Because they don't want me to say, told you so.
It's an embarrassment, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's hurt the relationship. And probably more times when I've given people advice and they didn't listen, and they're still struggling with the same problem, and they avoid me for the same reasons. Or they just fear judgment.
Yeah, we all fear judgment.
Yeah. There was a young woman came to me a couple of years ago about to get married, and I knew her situation well, and I advised her not to marry this man. There's nothing wrong with him, he's a good guy. But I can't see that either of you are that committed to the relationship.
Oh, wow.
Neither of you are willing to make compromises on where you're gonna live or how you're gonna live or where you're gonna work. And she married him. There are children involved now. Outsider looking in, it's not a good marriage.
Yeah.
But what I did was make it hard for her now to even have a confidant, to be able to come to me and say, this isn't working, or I'm struggling with this. Can you help me figure out how to navigate this? Because there's shame.
There's a little bit of that, she's gonna say, I told you so, at the back of her head.
Yeah.
So the juxtaposition there is, instead of giving the direct advice, there's an experience share.
Yes.
How is that different? How does that change the dynamic of the conversation?
When you're sharing an experience, you're able to say, knowing what I know, and with my lived experiences, and in my particular circumstances, this is what I did. And in that way,
own it,
and tell them what worked with that approach and what didn't work with that approach. And they can glean what they want from that.
And then take that information. I want to talk to you more about that. We'll be back from commercial in just a moment, and we will keep talking about experience sharing.